Hello everyone, my name is Nernstorm, and today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the Necromancer problem in ESO. In my opinion, the Necromancer class feels very lacking and incomplete, and I'd like to discuss a little bit about why and what is missing from the class to make it very functional for 1vx scenarios in PvP. Let's begin with the biggest issue, which is Blast Bones. Blast Bones is supposed to be the very core and essence of the class. It's supposed to be the big delayed damage, the big burst, kind of like Shulk is for the Warden class. However, there are some very big problems and big differences between Blast Bones and Shulks in the way they work. For example, while you can time Shulks exactly like a few moments before you hit the target, you can cast it before you can turn around, you can face your target, and then you can land it together with the burst. With Blast Bones, you can't really do that because first of all, you have to target the player you are going to attack to activate Blast Bone. You cannot activate it just out of nowhere like Shulks and then turn around to face the player. You have to be facing it and targeting it already. If you target the wrong player in an outnumbered scenario, Blast Bones will chase the wrong player as well. So you cannot change the direction to where Blast Bone is going to move while it's already being casted. In addition to that, Blast Bone doesn't move. Many times Blast Bones, when it spawns, it just stays there, or it starts walking and then goes back to you. Sometimes it teleports through the ground or walks through walls. Sometimes it just decides it doesn't want to attack the target and walks slowly towards it and eventually explodes and expires before it even reaches them. So even if you are able to target the player you want to attack and cast Blast Bones in the correct amount of time, many times it's just not going to go off, and it makes it very unreliable to time bursts around it. In addition to that, currently on both PC and consoles, the non-magical morphs of Blast Bones, which means the stamina one and the base one, deal a very low amount of damage. It doesn't deal the full value of the tooltip, so even less reliable than before. So with all these aspects put together, even after it gets a little bit of a fix in a couple months from ZOS maybe, hopefully, still Blast Bones is just a lot less reliable than Shulk is. And while it has, in theory, an equivalent amount of damage, or, slightly less damage in a Defile on a Stamina Morph, even if it does hit for that value, being able to rely on the fact that it will hit, it's just not something that we'll be able to do. Number two, in addition to the Blast Bone thing, is the fact that Necros lack a good damage over time ability that is player based. Like DKs have a shit ton, for example, Engulfing Flames or Burning Embers, like Nightblades have a vast array of those as well, and in general, all Stam classes have good reliable dots through their weapon skills. And for example, Warden has Fetcher Flies. Like every class has at least one good reliable dot they can put on an enemy target to keep pressure on them while they go with their offensive rotations, or sometimes while they need to take a moment to heal. Necros lack that. If we look at the skills on the Necro class, the only player-based dot there is the Skeletal Archer, and that deals very insignificant amount of damage. It hits for like 2k every 2 seconds when you're buffed up, at least a magical morph, and okay, it might be useful in some PvE scenarios to kind of, have another skill in your back bar that deals more damage through your entire rotation, but in PvP, you cannot justify the slot for it. It's just, it doesn't deal enough damage. If a dot is supposed to keep the pressure, this skill doesn't keep the pressure. It does not do any damage to the target you're fighting. Deals very insignificant damage that a heal over time can very easily mitigate, very easily. And so the only dot you're left with is Boneyard, and Boneyard is a ground-based dot, and what can I say? Ground is unreliable. Players can walk out of it. Sometimes you don't see them right in it. Sometimes they break free and go out, or maybe just roll dodge away. You cannot rely on the fact a player will sit in your AoE field and keep taking damage. Most good players know to get out of red. And so, this is just a really big issue. It's very difficult on a Magicka Necro, at least, where you don't have the ability to use weapon skills like axes in general, or skills like low slash and like blood craze, you cannot really keep pressuring your opponent using a dot. You have to constantly cast blast bones over and over. Use whatever your spammable is, be it skulls or any other skill like clench, and keep attacking the player, keep costing your own resources to kind of try to keep the pressure on them, and they can out heal it. And by out healing it, you're being under sustained. And you meanwhile cannot go and heal yourself if you're taking pressure by other players. So it just feels like you cannot keep up that pressure at all. In addition to those two big problems, there's also the fact that as a necro, you're supposed to rely on corpses very frequently. You're supposed to attack players or use your own skills to generate corpses on the ground, and then use those corpses to kind of buff your overall damage, healing, and have some added effect sometimes. And the issue with that is the corpse mechanic is very, very unreliable, just like everything else with the class. Corpses tend to disappear within 3 to 6 seconds after you cast them. It is very inconsistent. Many times, if you cast, for example, another Mender on yourself, and you have a Mender corpse on the ground, it'll just randomly disappear, and you might not have the chance to use it. And if you have 3 to 4 seconds usually to kind of capitalize on having this corpse in action, many times you're left without nothing to do because you're in the middle of an offensive rotation or in the middle of taking a lot of pressure and having to heal yourself, and you just don't have these free seconds while you're outnumbered to kind of take advantage of these corpses' existence. And when you stabilize yourself or capitalize on your kill and you want to go and consume the corpse, it's no longer there. And then you have to work around it and create another corpse just in the right time so that you can consume it again. And yes, if you keep constantly putting your mind on it and constantly trying to time your corpses, yes, you will be able to. However, the effect on consuming corpses, most of the effects on it at least, are not very, very beneficial. They're not so good that you want to dedicate your time and effort to make sure you can consume every corpse. Many times you just want to consume whatever corpses are available when you got the moment for it. But sadly, that window in which you can use these corpses and consume them is so small that many times you don't have any corpses available when you have a free moment in a 1vx scenarios to kind of take advantage of them. So overall, with these 3 big hits, which are blast bones being super unreliable, having no good and effective player-based dot, and having the corpse mechanic kind of be really inconsistent, I feel like Necros overall tend to be very, very underwhelming. The class definitely has a lot of potential. It has some of the stronger ultimates in the game, and it has some very good like edge builds where you can base your entire build around a specific skill or mechanic and kind of go far with it. But to have an overall balanced character that is better, at least in some aspects, than other classes, I really don't find Necro able to do. And so I feel like ZOS need to not only fix the current broken mechanics with Necros, especially Blast Bones, but also buff them a little bit. And I have promised you guys to make my own Magica Necro build and release it hopefully before the console launch of Elsewhere. Sadly, I was not able to do that, but the build will be coming out in the next couple days on this YouTube channel. However, this is like a disclaimer before the build even goes live. Yes, I've worked on a build, I've made a build, and I'm able to 1vx on it because a good player is able to 1vx even on understated toons or underperforming classes. But do I feel that this build on this class will be able to perform better than my Magdin or my MagDK builds, for example? No. Absolutely not. So take this as a warning. If you're about to try and use Necro as your main class, you might want to rethink it or watch a few guides and gameplays of the class, kind of see where it is and what it lacks before you give it a shot. Anyways, thank you guys very, very much for watching. I will be posting my Necro build very soon, like I've said, and there's definitely a lot more to talk about this class, and I'm sure there will be a lot of changes coming in. So you guys make sure to stay tuned, and I will update my videos about this class as soon as I'm able to, as soon as there's anything that is worthy of being mentioned. So thank you guys very, very much. I appreciate you watching this video. I hope you have a great day, and I will see you all in the next one.